Hello and welcome to the Jexit podcast. I'm your host, Riley, a former Jehovah's Witness who left the religion in 2019. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Scott Homan. Scott is a former Jehovah's Witness and the director of a documentary movie called Witness Underground about a group of teenage Jehovah's Witnesses who started a band. So, Scott, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for having us on before, too. You had us on early on last year when we were kind of doing our soft launch to the community. And all
That's
that
right.
means a lot. So we'll have you on soon.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. So, please just give us a rundown of the Witness Underground movie and how it started and what's happened since.
Well, first, it's available to watch. And you can watch it anywhere in the world in a few different ways. Some of them are rented, some are free. And the big ones are Tubi, TV, and Amazon. And then outside of US, Vimeo is probably the easiest option, but also on YouTube, on my channel, Witness Underground, the channel. You can join for any level and you can watch it there. So that's global. And there will be more options. But the origin story has to do with my experience in the religion. And I guess the brief of the movie is it's kind of 3 acts. You get to know, you go into the religion, and we have this music community that was sort of secret and isolated from the rest of society. Maybe not so secret in that they were trying to hide from society, but more like they weren't really allowed to. But they had this thriving independent music production company, and they put out about 30 albums, and it spanned quite a large group of genres, pretty expansive and open, with indie rock and Riot Girl, more on the punk rock side, and psychedelic rock, some EDM, some shoegaze, which is more like ambiance and like noisy distortion. And it was really like a thriving artist culture, not just music, but also painting and movies and making movies, trailers to horror films that weren't real, but just for fun. They would make a trailer for a film, really goofy, humorous stuff. So this whole community existed in the religion, but all the people in it, it wasn't like a rebellious thing. It was like, this is their coping mechanism to deal with the chaos of living in a doomsday cult. And probably without even consciously like being aware of what was going on. That was just something that emerged out of it. And to maintain it, because it was a bit taboo to do any of those things. And you get counseled to put your hobbies away and focus on, doing what the religion wants. They had to rise up in the hierarchy of the religion to maintain the religious community. So if somebody got in trouble, they got kicked out of the music group or weren't really allowed to do some of that stuff because it would impact others. So to keep the thing running, they had to keep it clean in a way, like the witnesses would use the word, keeping the congregation clean, to use culty language. Anyway, so the movie really explores that community. Excuse me. And then of course, someone gets kicked out of their religion for thought crimes. And then it's like this, all the losses that come with shunning. So really the movie is about shunning and kind of the universal experience anyone has dealing with the limits of a group like this. And anyone, even if you're not Jehovah's Witness or never were or don't know anyone in it, a lot of groups function like this. And whether it's politics or your social community or even a job, there's similar features to that can happen depending on how controlling or abusive the group is. And then there's something I'd never seen in a film on the topic before, where it's not just, okay, everything's sad and terrible. We had the fun rise and then fall, but there's this, like, what happens after that? How do people what happens in their life after getting out of this religion? And there's a couple different arcs that take place, because there's quite a lot of different experiences you can have. So we follow a couple people through years after leaving and the music that they created and the life that they had after, to show, well, first of all, you can survive and that you can have a great life after, or a life that you're proud of because you forged it yourself. So that's generally the format of the movie, and it's now available, but it comes from my origin. I was in a band and I knew all these people later, after I kind of quit my band, and I'd been doing like a quote unquote worldly band, like a band with my friends from high school. And then at some point I started making friends in their religion. So like I formed a Jehovah's Witness band. And of course, the religion was like deleting band members because they were getting in trouble with stuff. And it fell apart pretty quickly, honestly, after like 1 year. But I met all these people during that time period. And so I moved to that city where they were where they had the music community. So I kind of became an audience member in the music community, art community. Got to know some of the people pretty well. And then years later, I've gotten back in touch with them. And the reason I got back in touch with them was because I thought getting out of the religion was like the most important thing I'd ever do. And that might define who I am. And that's it. Like, okay, well, at least in this lifetime, I got out of a cult and I'm doing things that are more interesting and what I want. But it turned out that shunning started happening to me and it really affected me. And I thought I could just ignore it and like try to never tell anyone about my past as a witness or like around that group. Because I had a very light experience with the religion. My parents joined it when I was young. And so I have a before and after memory, but then in a very clear indoctrination path that was shocking and strange and like having to tackle bizarre ideas as new ideas that were like displacing other ideas that my parents and other family had taught. And the shunning was shocking because I didn't think my parents and my siblings were kind of terrible at this religion. I thought I was the only one taking it seriously because of I was trying to like had a foot in both worlds. And for them to not talk to me, and I had been out of the house, like I'd been living my own adult life, like with good relationship with them for like a decade, living in other states and other countries. I'd gone and done like need grader stuff, not really officially, but like I went to check out like life in Ecuador as a Jehovah's Witness and learned to surf. So I was like, I don't know, tapping into the culture throughout my life, and then and doing it anyway. So the shunning was really extreme for me, and I was shocked by it, and I can't believe that like how emotionally abusive and manipulative it is. And it's sort of like they punish everyone the same. It's immediate, like the full weight of the punishment, which is you're cut off from everyone you've ever known and loved for the rest of your life on day one. That's generally what's supposed to happen. So I had like a few years of like, well, they would talk to me, but then they wouldn't talk to me. They would talk to me and then they wouldn't talk to me. They would add me on Facebook. They would delete me from Facebook. And it was like, what's going on? Why are you guys, we don't really have a relationship, but like you're being super culty and weird. And you've never been culty compared to like normal witnesses. And then it was just like a hard line, like, no, you're cut off from us forever. And I was like, well, it's been a bizarre last few years anyways, and I don't want to be associated with this thing. And then, for years I was like, I don't have the skills to tell the story with film, but I had always kind of had some film skills, but I kind of really dove into that area because I knew I wanted to tell a bigger story one day, and I didn't really know what I was doing. So I had like a 5-year just work on audio analysis project I could get involved with in documentary, in music, and then those two things kind of collided with this project where I was working with some of these musicians who'd gotten out of the religion because their music's incredible, high TV. And I asked them if they wanted to tell their story because I'd started to do interviews. And I didn't ever really look on the internet about what other people were doing on the internet with ex-Jehovah's Witness culture. I'd not thought of that. I'd not thought to see like, oh, are there activists or other people making videos? I'd seen like very, very few things. And I was like, oh, what I do see, I didn't like. I saw some of the bigger documentaries and I thought people were just kind of like wallowing in the pain. But I wanted to show like, oh, no, life after is like exciting and exhilarating and fun. We're going to talk about the pain, but we're going to like show something else that's really interesting. And through it, I've learned about my own trauma and how trauma works and how manipulative coercive control works. And I think making the movie to realize you need to go get therapy is not the path I recommend. Just go straight to therapy. You can skip the whole learning how to make a documentary process. But I'm really glad I made it. I'm really proud of it.
That's great. And I've seen the movie and I was absolutely blown away by it. It is just a fantastic piece of storytelling, and not just storytelling. It's just, I found that I was really emotionally connected to, the band members and the experiences they went through. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster, to be honest. But I love the aspect of showing the positivity that can come as a result of leaving this high demand religion and being shunned, which is a tragic thing for anyone who's experienced it, myself included. But seeing that there is life after that was something that I really appreciated about the film.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a few reports of the emotional connection they feel to the characters. So I feel like, and that's not just my work, there's other people involved in telling the story. But I feel like I've never seen something that humanized the Jehovah's Witnesses. And in a way, we did that because of the archival footage, even though we reached out to a lot of the people that are still in the religion. But in the characters that we follow, the 5 people from that music community, Nuclear Gopher, that were all friends since they were very young, and they're still maintaining connection on the outside. They had this ability to tell both sides of the story in a way that was like really honest, I felt. But yeah, thank you for sharing the connection you felt and the emotional roller coaster aspect. And I didn't realize I was making a film that would like trigger people. But it's like, I feel like I don't know, maybe you can tell me, do you feel like the emotional roller coaster was like triggers is that a healthy thing to be triggered, or was it like challenging?
No, not necessarily triggering, but it was like, I felt like I was reliving the experiences of the characters, of course, being, a former JW myself and also being shunned. There was an element of that, of it reminding me of my own experience, but it was sort of, I felt very, very drawn into the film, and it was as if the film put me in the shoes of the characters. So yeah, I was like living their experiences along with them. That's how it impacted on me.
We did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did, and you should be very proud of yourselves, all of you.
Yeah, thank you.
So what kind of things has happened as a result of this documentary? How was it received by critics outside of the ExJW community, and has it opened up any opportunities for further projects?
Yes, actually. It's been really, it came out 2 months ago. So we're in the spring of 2024. And pretty quickly, people that I met through the film festival run. So, okay, maybe we start there. We took it on the film festival run circuit and submitted to a lot of film festivals. And it was kind of a life dream of mine because I kind of started doing documentary type projects in high school. We had a project. So since I was a teenager, making content. And I knew that they existed, but I'd never been to one. But so some part of me was like, that would be really cool to have it be recognized and see what that's like. And so this film was an opportunity for me to go, and it got selected, official selection to 11 film festivals. 6 of those were nice film festivals, good ones. Portland, for example, New Haven Documentary Film Festival out in Connecticut, and Genre Blast, we won Best Documentary Feature. And that was special because like human rights festivals I don't even think they watched it, the ones we submitted to. And I thought, that's the niche. That's like the narrow little thin line, because it's not really like an entertainment movie. It does have entertainment elements, but it's deeper and heavier. Yeah. And it's a first time filmmaker, so there's like plenty of like amateur things in there that I would do differently now for my next film. But so it's not going to win at Sundance or Cannes or Berlinale or Biennale in Venice, the big ones, Toronto. So I did submit to some of those thinking like, long shot, it might get selected because it's special, but it didn't. And it went to some of these like, they're not A+ festivals, they're A, B festivals. But that experience, it was really, really special. And I met a lot of people there. What was really cool is like, it's really rare to meet a film director. And I was one all of a sudden, and hadn't really embodied that identity, but that's what you have to write on all the things when you submit. I'm like, I made it. I am a director. And I met all these directors who'd made a bunch of films and working on scripts. And it was like, oh, these are my people. This is so much fun. And it was just we're like, everyone's equal and they're very helpful people. And I've maintained a lot of those friendships. And so when my film came out and I started putting the news out in the world, and we did our Kickstarter last fall, that got the news like, oh, this is coming out, this is finished, it's going to be in the world. So a lot of people reached out, and as soon as the film hit Tubi and Amazon, people were like, hey, I got this other friend of mine who has a film and he doesn't know how to do the film festival thing. Scott, you did that. And another one's like, hey, I have this film and it's kind of similar to your film. And that's is like, so one of the new projects is a guy I met at an interfaithless event. I'm going to derail myself, but he's running his new documentary. He won Best Short at the world's oldest film festival in Italy, Venice Biennale.
Wow.
2009 with a film. He's a famous musician in Israel, and he's a musician in the religious community. But then he announced that he no longer believed, but it was the ultra Orthodox Jewish community, so extremely controlling and isolated group. So he made a couple films on that topic, and they're very well done. And his new film, anyway, so he reached out and he's like, so we started talking about what he's up to, and then now I'm kind of helping him with his strategy. And that film is really important. And I'm realizing through doing all of this that first of all, I love so much of it. It's like making a movie is like 8 days of camera work, and then like a year of editing work, and then like 5 more years of other stuff that nobody understands or knows how to do. And I like all of it. So I think I'm going to be helping some people out with their projects. Getting him into festivals, getting the selections out there. Everybody wants to go for the big ones, and that's worth a try. It's expensive, but it's also would be incredible life experience to be selected at a big festival. And I right now I'm in this transition phase too. I know I want to do more of that. And I know all these people that are doing other projects, and it's so much easier to help someone with their project than it is to start from zero and build an audience and build your team and then work on the thing all the time that's not making any money for possibly years before it has the potential to go from $0 to $1. And it's usually just like you're throwing money into the thing. So working on someone else's project is rewarding kind of all the time, and they're grateful. So there's this kind of like be of service, and there's a lot of gratitude going around, and it's a really fun space to be working. So I didn't know it was going to take me thousands of my personal hours and years of my time to get something out. It's really hard to do something you don't know how to do. But at the same time, it's super rewarding to put all your energy into one important project and take it on that ride. And now is this time to like share it. Now it used to be, hey, please watch it, but also like pay for it, rent it. And now it's actually, you can watch it, stream it for free in a lot of the world. And that is, or really low cost. And now that's the way to spread it. Because the ultimate goal wasn't about making money. There's costs. So like we're trying to recoup the cost of it. And ideally, like I would like to make another one funded by this one if I can. But it's like ultimately a work of activism and a work of creativity that I want the people to be impacted by. So sharing it far and wide is the ultimate goal. So if you hear this and you like the film, share it with other people. Tell 3 people or post it or something if you can. But it's also a weird community because like people they're not out yet. Or like if they're PMO, let's say, they can't share this kind of thing. They can secretly share it, but then it's a risk maybe, that they click the link or sent the link to somebody. So I totally understand that. But ultimately what I'm realizing, I'll let you talk in a second, is that like it's not just ExJWs, right? Like obvious audience for a film on that exact topic. And some people have said like, I've never seen myself in a movie before, their story. But like working on an ultra Orthodox Jewish film, it's like this is some of the same stuff. There's the same abusive, manipulative tactics. And like, I feel like it's important that the ExJW community, which I feel a part of, breaks out of their own bubble. If we look at the story of some other group, it might even inform ours more without using the cult, like same formula, different labels for everything. So like the experience is relatable, but the words are different. But it's ultimately humans organizing themselves and doing abusive culty things. And there's a lot of that. And so I kind of think I want to help other groups that are trying to tell that story for their isolated community to spread that knowledge to the former Jehovah's Witness cult community, but also like help all those ex communities kind of get out of the bubble and see that it's actually like a gigantic human problem, and that we all successfully navigated cult mind control. We have a superpower to inform others that how these structures work. And yeah, it's like kind of exciting to see. Like the deeper I go, the more I'm like, oh, this is a human problem. This is actually the cause of a lot of the world's problems. It's not just abusive cult groups.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And what you just described is something that I really can relate to, because when I was waking up, looking back now, I think my awakening happened in stages. And of course, it's still ongoing. But one really pivotal moment for me is when I realized that Jehovah's Witnesses are not unique. I remember listening to Stephen Hassan's book, Combating Cult Mind Control. And when he was describing some of the recruitment tactics that the cult he was a member of employed. And then when he described the Moonies, that's right.
Church.
That's right. And some of them were so similar to how we were taught to preach as Jehovah's Witnesses. And then when I started researching Mormons and Scientology, it was like my mind was blown. And when I had that realization that all of these groups are the same, they use the same tactics, they use the same psychology, they operate in the same way. It's like different branches on the same tree, or several different sports teams that use the same playbook. That's what it was like.
Yeah,
and that was a really pivotal moment in my waking up, because up until that point, I'd accepted that the witnesses are not the one true religion, if there even is such a thing. I'd accepted that they have some cult-like practices, but I still saw them as being a better religion than all the others.
Yeah, I think that's a really common sentiment. People that leave or stop going or inactive, they're like, yeah, I mean, it's not all bad. Or if there is a true religion, they're the closest thing to it. I've heard a lot of that over the years. Dig in deeper.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think it's really, really important that anyone from a former high control group, whether it's religious, political, social, whatever, I think it's really important that they, as you said, break themselves out of that bubble and see the wider picture and see that this is just a facet of human psychology.
Yeah. I was talking to Ulrike Schiese. She's a cult expert in the government department on esoteric and conspiracy theories in Austria. So she's been doing this her whole life. She wrote a book called Facts and Prejudice. She was saying that right now, there's not many people, like everyone in the world, that works in this space as a professional, like Stephen Hassan you mentioned. They all know each other. They've all interacted and they're all sharing ideas. They're also an aging population because people generally think that cults are from last century and it's falling, it's disappearing. Like there's less and less of them. And like when, we're shown in the news, like, oh, there's a crazy cult and the government's after them and they burned the house down and they're all dead. And it's like, oh, damn. Okay. Well, I guess we solved that problem. And then it's like that people think it's over and it's bizarre and rare. And she was saying that with social media and low education on the topic, that this is an unprecedented time of an exponential rise in these types of tactics being used to control others for money, for ideologies, for religious ideas, like a YouTube channel or you and I both have Patreons, right? And we're not looking for, we're not trying to abuse people that follow us. Like there's like an intention behind the problem. That's a really important distinction. But some people want to have their supply, to use a narcissistic terminology, their energy supply, whether it's money or attention or their ideologies. They want to be the best, and they can isolate people in these ways, but it's very private, hidden, and in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to dress a certain way necessarily. You can sit on your couch or your bed or do your stuff around the yard while listening to these people and being influenced by their bad ideas. And it's, people still have no idea. I see these tactics, like maybe our religion used 50 different tactics that are straight from, like you said, the cult playbook. Like everyone read the same playbook and are just employing it with different labels.
Mm-hmm.
But now you have these individuals on the internet doing it, and no one sees the pattern, and they've been love bombed and convinced that this person has their best intentions at heart, and no, they probably don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's hard to navigate. It was hard to navigate when someone's good at this.
yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm not sure if I've ever mentioned this on my channel before, but I'm very interested. I'm very interested in health and fitness. I started bodybuilding when I was 14, maybe 15. I did it up until my mid-20s, but I've always been interested in, going to the gym and being fit. And the sheer number of cults within the health, fitness, and wellness industry is staggering. I see it all the time. There are cults around diets. There are literally cults around certain types of diet and certain types of, ways of eating. And it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah. That it's something I was talking, because I've been interviewing people that are their career experts recently. And I'm like, am I just looking at it more, so I'm seeing it more? Or is it really everywhere? And they're like, no, it's everywhere. And it's on the rise. And no one's getting this education. So like, they're like, if you want to work in this space, there's room for people to help grow the knowledge base and help spread it in new ways. But it sounds like we're being loose with the word cult. Like, oh yeah, at my gym there's a cult. But no, like it's and they're like confirmed for me. Like, this is everywhere, and the same tactics are being used. It's absolutely believable that there's a fitness guru and a diet guru, or maybe that word's wrong. Someone who wants to control you and take your money, and they might not have your best interest at heart. Certainly there are good people that are doing good things, but they're not going to use these tactics. And I've been seeing it because I've been living in places where there's a lot of, what's the word? It's like, you could use the word spiritual community, quote unquote, or, I don't know, just, I keep on bringing this up at like cacao ceremony. I've been introduced to this concept. I mean, if you're going to make a religion about chocolate, I'm probably in. Let's go.
For the listeners who may not be familiar with cacao ceremonies, could you just explain it briefly for us?
Oh, okay. So there's, in the Mayan cultures and Aztec, Mexica world in the Americas, cacao is a natural tree that grows everywhere. It's this big pod with big brown seeds with sugary, syrupy stuff around them. You roast the seed, and that's where we get chocolate, cacao bean. But people traditionally, and to this day, make like chocolate drinks with it. And so cacao ceremony, basically they make a chocolate drink, but it's not the traditional one. They add lots of different things, usually like spice and flavors and anise and coconut oil or butter to it. So it gives it like this incredible flavor. But they're trying to give you a certain dose of chocolate, because it does have an effect on our body. Everything you put in your body does. And it's very natural. And it has it's very energetic, like brings something like caffeine, but it's not quite there. But they'll do, like, they'll play music. And there's all these songs that are about nature. And for me, it all sounds very childish and like a Hare Krishna and like Jesus loves you kind of kumbaya sort of element to it. It's like, we're singing about hummingbirds. Okay. Now we're singing about like the beach, sand, and the waves. And then the next one's singing about butterflies. And it's like, I feel like we're singing lullabies. But then they give everyone chocolate, and you can't drink it. You have to smell it, and you have to like infuse it with your energy and love. And then you pass it to the next person. You look them in the eyes, and there's all this like this human social connection thing that they're trying to create. And then you sing the song. So then you're like, it feels great to sing, and churches do that. And then you raise your glass of chocolate to the 4 directions, north, east, south, and west, and then to the sky, and then to the earth. And you give a moment for each one, and they guide you in what you're supposed to think about, which is sort of like someone praying at a church. And you just listen, and you just accept it as it is, or think about it, or agree, or say it to yourself, something like that. And then you drink the cacao, and you are infused with all the love that people infused it with their spirit as they pass it to you. And then they play music, and you sing more songs, and it's usually like an hour, and there might be some like after thing where you all share something about how you feel. I met this incredible person in Mexico who's called it romantic infantile pseudo shamanism. Like people are so hungry
an interesting
for
term.
Yeah, romantic infantile pseudo shamanism. Like they're so like excited to share with others, and that's beautiful. That's like this draw to community, draw to social, but it's childish. It's like it's a really, really basic. Like there's a church down the street that's empty that your grandparents built, but like you'd rather sit in the dirt with your special outfit and like touch the ground with your bare feet and drink from the plant, and that feels like better and more close to God or close to Mother Nature. It's like they're spreading this bizarre new ritual around that's invented recently, that has no connection to the indigenous culture, and the indigenous aren't involved. You've never been to a spiritual community? Like, join us for a cacao ceremony. We'll show you the way. It's like cult indoctrination, love bombing session, and then it's like, oh, you go shopping at the cult outfit store, and then you can start learning our language. And we'll tell you when you're saying things incorrectly. And I'm just like, no, you guys, come on. Like, this is the same pattern, and you're just inventing a cult. Stop it. That's what I see, but I'm a little bit skeptical.
I'm exactly the same. I've noticed that since waking up and leaving the JWs, I'm really, really acutely attuned to false dichotomies and dichotomous patterns of thinking. Whenever I encounter a person or a group that has a very black and white way of thinking, it just makes me want to run a mile. But I'm very sensitive to spotting that, I've noticed.
Yeah. And that's something I've realized too, is it's like, that's a red flag. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in my past,
immediately,
I've seen all the red flags and been like, okay, I need to step left over here, tiptoe over there, not talk to this person, say the right words to that person, and like navigate like a landmine field.
Mm-hmm.
And now I recognize the red flags, and sometimes I'm still drawn in some like familiar territory. Let's go. And other times I'm doing more of what you just said, which is run the other way. And that's the appropriate response. I hope everyone, the takeaway from the Scott and Jexit show, when you see a red flag, run the other way. And,
absolutely.
Describing this whole cacao ceremony is kind of funny because I've been to like 17 of them in the last year. I'm like, why am I somehow in this environment? I'm curious about this red flag. I should probably just stop.
Or maybe you just like the chocolate.
Chocolate is a good draw.
Yeah. So do you have any projects in the work related to Jehovah's Witnesses?
Ooh, related to Jehovah's Witnesses. Yes, there is an exciting one. There's actually 4 things I've got my fingers in right now, which has been really cool. And I was saying it kind of just sort of happened right after the film coming out. And I'm also in this moment of like, I need to market the film, so there's a bit of that kind of ramping up and a little bit of pivoting and adjusting because that's a whole other way of seeing the world and also a new territory. So if anybody knows about marketing, they want to help out, reach out to me. But I have some plan I'm working on. But I'm also in this phase of, well, I don't want to just start a brand new project because I just came out of a 6-year long-term relationship with this movie. And it's a good relationship. It's healthy, but it's changing all the time. And this is like the result and the culmination, and like we did it. It's a very exciting moment, and I feel like it's the final chapter in the life of a movie is now do this. So thank you for having me on. It's part of the process. But I did get reached out to by a woman who has a podcast as well, who knew someone who was an incredible musician, who was a witness, grew up in Canada. And I don't want to tell too many details because we're not like deep into it yet, but we're beginning the pre-production stages and gathering the story. And a lot of people are filling out forms to share what they know about this person. And in a way, his life had a lot of parallels and similarities to mine. Getting out of the religion, being shocked, making music, getting into his music is incredible. And he went from like folk singer songwriter, street punk, vagabond music, like, but he's an incredibly talented musician and singer. Like he specifically sings about the religion without saying the name Jehovah's Witnesses, but he sings about the elements. It's like, oh man, this music is for us, for the ExJW community, like details. And it's so powerful. And then he went on and traveled and lived in other parts of the world, in Asia. And then he was he got deeper into the music scene, which is parallel to my story. When I moved to Vietnam, I was like deeper into the music world, different genres that we got into. But like, I know the community he was a part of, but I wasn't like my community. But I'm really interested in exploring that. And I think it'll be an inspiring, but also maybe a even heavier film than the one I just made. Yeah. Because the one we made, like, it's a life after. So this one it gets darker than this one.
Right.
So we'll see. That's one's really in the works.
Exciting.
Yeah. And then there's another one I met because we went to Genre Blast, the horror film festival. Oh, I started to talk about this earlier. We didn't get accepted to any human rights festivals. We got accepted, official selection to a horror film festival called Genre Blast, which I was like, is that where the direction of the movie is going? Horror film fest? It's crazy. And I loved the people I met there. I had so much fun. And I was like, oh, this is like a no limits film world. Other places are like trying to fit rom-coms or like drama or compete with like the Hollywood big studios and like all the movies we've all seen. Like there's like this high class film, but the horror film, it's like, oh, that was like such a funny low budget horror. And like, I love how the blood splattered against the wall. Like people are just like joking around. Like, oh, I know he could make that even crazier looking, or like even, I want to like kill even more zombies next time, you know? So just like people that are just really playing with like chaos and crazy stuff. So that was like a really fun environment to be in. And like, I brought a serious movie about the horrors of shunning, and they're like, yeah, that was heavy, that was real, man. Like they were really excited and celebratory of the film, and we won an award. We won best documentary feature. There weren't a lot of documentaries. Wow. It's kind of strange to have a horror film fest with documentary selection, so it wasn't like we were competing with a huge amount of films, but it was really cool that they opened that, and it was really cool to be kind of entered into that community. And because of that, there was a director who's like, hey, this actress in my film that played here, she's the next Jehovah's Witness. I'll connect you. And he did. And she came to see Witness Underground, and her and I have developed a friendship. She's actually been on my channel.
Wow.
So she just wrote a film with someone. She's got like 50 credits in Hollywood on IMDb with like well-known TV shows, like career actress. But she just wrote and developed and co-directed and co-produced and acted in a horror film. And I'm officially now a part of the team. That there's people leading it, but I'm like joining as like a low-level producer on their horror film, which I'm super excited about because it's like, it's not Jehovah's Witness related at all, but one of the key actors is making and has made films on the topic. So I guess I'll plug it. Sissy, she made Sissy. Her name's Bonnie Root, and she's also working on a film called Diary of Heather Keating. So I interviewed her about those films, and Diary of Heather Keating is specifically about her experience as a young woman in the Jehovah's Witnesses and being interrogated in an elders judicial committee, as she calls it, over her developing sexuality and identity, and how that shaped her life. So that film's coming and being worked on. And then, the horror film. So she's doing some really cool stuff, and she's like kind of, did a whole career, and she's sort of like, hey, that stuff was actually in the Jehovah's Witnesses was actually really damaging, and it should be talked about. So now she's using her powers and her skills and her abilities and her community in the film world to shine a light on Jehovah's Witness topics on like with a high level. So I'm really excited for her to work on those projects, and I'm happy to like help out on that film that they're working on now. Just in more of like I'm more like getting an education out of it by doing some stuff and like being guided by them because they're like deep in the industry, and I'm just tapping in a way. Helping some people navigate their film festival runs. This Jewish film I was mentioning earlier, that film is exciting because it's like another isolated, highly controlled, manipulated group. And this person's gotten out, and a lot of other people have gotten out, but these people aren't cared for. So most people think like, oh, you got out of the cult. Great, you made it. Welcome to the normal world. The normal world is filled with all sorts of problems. And it's not a great example of like human achievement in civilization and like stability or even like safety. So there's a lot of other new things. It's not like we were totally isolated, right? We also knew some of the stuff in the world that was or wasn't good, but there's this, no one really understands in the normal human experience that once you get out of a cult, there's this like multi-year or multi-decade experience of sort of finding what your real identity is, and navigating things you've never done before. There's things I've never felt safe doing, and it's still like I show up to a party and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to participate in that thing that's happening over there. That looks everyone looks like they're having a great time, but that's not for me. But it's like, well, where's that coming from? Because I've never had, just to be clear, like dancing is just like not a part of the experience, not a healthy part of my childhood. Like you go to a wedding with a witness world and it's like, yeah, there's people dancing. They seem like they're having a good time, but everyone who's not dancing is judging. And then they're talking about it for weeks. Like, did you see the way that sister was like moving her body? Do you see the way that they dressed? And it's like, I don't want to, I know the other side. And it's like that just lives on. Now your reputation has been defined by the way you moved your body to some song for 30 seconds. And I'm like, I can't deal with and I'm not comfortable with that. And it's like, well, that's really based in my Jehovah's Witness experience. Because dancing is a good time. I have had a lot of fun dancing in my life, but certain contexts are just like absolutely not participating in that situation. And how many things are like that? It's like you have to kind of discover that and live the experience and question yourself. Like, what's the origin of that thing? And it's not easy to go through those processes. And I kind of think like your channel and mine, and there's quite a few other great channels, like we're trying to show, hey, this is a process. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just not a guidebook for that. But
yeah, you're absolutely right. What I've found in my own experience is that I've had mentors in different aspects of normal life that people who didn't grow up in a doomsday cult just take for granted.
Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So like when I started dating, which was very, very soon after I left the religion.
Wide open world.
I had sort of like an unofficial dating coach who was actually a friend of mine who I worked with, and her advice was absolutely invaluable. And we remained good friends up until this very day. My wife has been like a mentor as well, helping me to navigate certain social situations. I never ever saw myself as being someone who was socially awkward at all by any means, but coming out of the JWs and then being thrust into the wider world of quote unquote worldly people, I just didn't know how to act. There was so many social cues and etiquette that I just didn't pick up on. But my wife has helped me out a lot with that. So yeah, there's just different aspects of life. I just kind of like adopted mentors to help me and guide me along in those things and help me to function like a normal person.
I think that's an incredibly insightful path to take. I kind of did something like that. I could probably make a parallel with that, but in my work life, because there's a ban essentially on education. It's not a hard, complete ban. If you go, you could still be a witness, but you would be looked down upon, right? And I actually took that path. I went to school for photography while a witness, and as soon as people would say no, don't do it. But if you do it, they're like, well, I guess that's just your path. But anyway, that didn't turn into career stuff. But there's this ban on education, so there's not a lot of options when you get out. You can go to school, but it's like it's usually a little bit more difficult when you have life obligations. and when you're older. Although I recommend people, if they want to go to school, go to school. But I took this other path that was, and it really worked for me, which was, okay, so I'm curious about this particular job or career option. The fastest way to get there, I could go to school for 5 years or 3 or whatever, tech school, maybe get a 2-year degree in that thing. But everyone I met who went to school was like, I didn't really learn how to do it. I learned that what stuff exists, and I got an introduction to many things. So I didn't actually have any experience or hard skills to take to a job. And I was like, well, what if I talk to someone who owns a company that does that thing? And I found that if you could like skip the line in a lot of ways in life, and then you're getting an incredibly focused education, not just on how to do the work, but how to run the business from the top level. And I did that in a number of different areas, but then specifically when I found I'd done and I still do electrical engineering design work, which is like extreme graphic design and puzzle making. It's like Tetris, but like with like 500 different shapes. And you have to design the shapes, and then you have to solve the puzzle. But anyways, there's a whole thing to talk about there, like inputs with sensors, outputs, processing data, power. And there's a lot to that, but all of that with like a little bit of math, a little bit of understanding of basic physics, but usually an engineer guiding it. Anyway, like I went to the engineer and I'm like, hey, I'm really curious about doing this. And they're like, yeah, I'll teach you and I'll pay you like a super low rate. But I'm like, I'm getting paid to learn, and I'm learning from the best. And then from that person, he's like, you need to go to school to learn these things that you're missing. Here's what you're missing. So then I went to school again and I learned a lot of those things. And then I found another mentor, and he's like, oh yeah, you're just missing this and this and that. Let's do a job together. I'll pay you a low level and you'll learn, and I'll teach you and guide you through it. And we'll have a client together. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. And then I went to another guy, and that when I hit that third mentor, my career skyrocketed. Skyrocketed. I got a career. I won't exaggerate. I got a career, and I got to skip the line. And I feel incredibly grateful to those 3 people and those experiences. That one-on-one training is nothing quite like that. And I want to write a book at some point, and I have a lot of things I want to do with that. One of those is like how to get paid to learn. And that's essentially the thing, is like find your own mentors. And I think you saying that about the dating life is really insightful, because we could find mentors, and maybe I have without even having really thought about it, in other areas of life that are not career mentors, but social mentors, lifestyle mentors. Like, what am I missing here? Like, what do you see that I don't see? And then you're like, oh, that's embarrassing. I better delete that little weird thing that I do. Can you give us a dating mentor tip that worked for you?
Oh, wow. Yes. You have to have an incredibly thick skin.
Oh, yeah.
That's a tip that I got early on, and
rejection.
I learned the value of that very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Especially the way how dating is in modern times. I sounded like a boomer when I said that, didn't I? The way how dating is now, with like apps and online dating and that kind of thing, you have to have a very thick skin in order to navigate it without, it affecting you detrimentally on an emotional level.
Yeah. There's some element of, you're never going to meet someone if you stay at your house. So you have to put yourself out there, and then you're never going to date anyone if you don't like actually talk to someone, because that's a big part of dating is communication. So you have to like talk to someone, but there's rejection. It's okay. So then it's a numbers game. Like, all right, let's do 100 people. Get to 100. I love the rule of 100, but just do it 100 times, and you'll probably get closer to your goal. You'll get the experience. But yeah, putting yourself out there, that means you're going to be rejected by 99 people, or you might be rejecting some of them as well. But
yeah, absolutely. And me personally, I'm very, very rejection averse. Extremely rejection averse. So,
which is weird, because witnesses, like, we knock on so many doors, and that was like rejection, like, machine.
Get
off of my porch. What are you doing here? I don't care.
It's true.
but we
Yeah,
don't.
I
Like, it's
felt,
hard to do that in the other parts of our life.
yeah, yeah. That's very, very true. I mean, yeah, I'm used to having doors slammed in my face. We all are, but when it comes to other things, it's like that resilience that we had in the ministry that doesn't always translate over into other things for some
Yeah, in a
reason.
way, it was like we put on a mask. We were playing a character. Like, I am
Mm,
in this outfit, a Jehovah's Witness, and I have the Jehovah's Witness message. It's not my message. It's this other group's message that I'm
yeah,
identifying with this afternoon. And it's okay that you don't want it, and that just means you're going to die.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, but with women or like a romantic person, you're seeking a partnership or relationship. That's personal. It's like, oh, what
yeah,
is this about me, my identity, my voice, my look, my style, my ability to communicate, my awkwardness socially that they're
mm, mm,
rejecting out of hand. Then it's heavier because it's like, that wasn't my mask, that was my actual me, my actual identity.
yeah. Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. I actually remember my mum telling me as a kid going out in the ministry that if they say no, it's not you they're rejecting, it's Jehovah. They're rejecting Jehovah, you know. So maybe on some level that helps me to not take it personally.
Yeah, such a bizarre thing to do.
Yeah.
There is something out of the numbers game of doing the door-to-door Jehovah's Witness thing. Super esoteric, weird thing. Some people opened up, like 10, 15 people in my life opened up to tell me something that made them believe. Like, they're
Mm.
like, no one's around, I can tell the craziest thing to this kid in a suit. They would tell me, like, the moment that they talked to Jesus, or like an angel descended from the sky and they saw this thing, or like they had this crazy feeling and all the hair stood up on their neck and they knew that it was God. And in some cases it was like demons or Satan
Mm.
or something. But
Yeah.
all of it made them have faith. And actually, that taught me something. I was like, okay, so all these other people are having these experiences. Witnesses are only having the demon version of that experience. I've never heard a witness be like, it was the angels that came down, and then I knew it was Jehovah helping me. It's always like,
Yeah.
I was so, so scared. And then I took the religion really seriously. I'm like, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses their faith is based in fear. That's interesting.
That's something I've realized since coming out. So much of it is fear and obligation and guilt. So much. And they are
The
perfect
fog,
tools for
fear,
Yeah,
obligation, guilt.
exactly. They're perfect tools for manipulating people.
Interesting. That might be a red flag to put in your arsenal of awareness. Like, if
Yes.
you if you find yourself being afraid, obligated, or guilted, you're feeling those things, then someone's probably trying to manipulate you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of
Absolutely.
my big epiphanies after getting out. Is like, if I'm guilty, if someone's like bringing out like the personal experience of guilt, then someone's trying to control me, and I need to like reassess the situation. But
Mm.
I didn't. Yeah, there's a trifecta there: fear, obligation, and guilt,
Yeah.
that people call fog. Right? That's like
Yeah.
it's a known psychological
Yeah.
thing.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good way of remembering it.
Yeah, and it feels foggy too. It's like, why why am I in this hard to understand situation? It's very complicated. Foggy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So it has been great speaking with you today, Scott. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I love it. Thanks for having me on. We'll do another one where you're on my show on the Witness Underground channel.
I look forward to it. Just before you go, could you just tell everyone where they can see Witness Underground?
So if you go to witnessunderground.com, I keep that website updated with all the streaming options, free and rentals. And it is coming out. I think it's now licensed to 9 different streaming services. So you could, whatever your favorite platform is, search it. But witnessunderground.com will have them. I update every couple weeks, like with an image and a thing you can just click to go watch. But Tubi TV is the big one, which is ad supported. So that's free. And some small amount of revenue comes our way from the ads, and it actually pays filmmakers more than any other one in the world. So that's always been our target, because it actually makes the business of the film work, because I want to make another movie. And then Amazon.com is rental or buy, And then, of course, Vimeo. And that's all on the website. So witnessunderground.com has all those options to stream it from the comfort of your sofa. We made it.
Excellent. That's great. So wish you all the best for your future projects. I really hope that they're successful, and good luck and well done.
Thanks so much, Riley. Really appreciate it.